All right, guys, ladies and gentlemen, who's ever listening, I want to talk about a very important subject that a lot of people might deal with and some people don't. Uh, and it's the subject of guilt and shame. Now, I'm talking about it because that's something I have struggled with. But you know what? Like I said, that struggle did not start from my childhood. That is not something that came with my original personality. That's a struggle that came along with having people around you, parents or whoever, a mother, who did not want to deal with their own internal issues or for whatever was evil. And they started putting all their baggage and insecurities on you and wanted to make you feel guilty for how they felt, so everything was like your fault. Because they don't want to deal with their own baggage. And in this time, you don't want to take on anybody else's baggage. It's really time to release that stuff. Okay? Hold on one second. It's really time to release that. If you're holding on to, it's already enough that you got to deal with yourself. But then you're holding on to somebody else's baggage that you might not know is somebody else's. You know? But yeah, that guilt and shame stuff. Like for an example, I told a story of a sibling of mine. She used to have siblings. And I talked about how I just kept calling her. And she's done this before. It was years ago. And I got to the point where I didn't care if I talked to her or not. But then again, we started back kind of talking again. And the same thing. Now, we never got into any arguments or fights because I barely know her. I don't know her well enough to get into fights like that because pretty much as soon as I met her, I came to California. So I didn't have an opportunity to be around her enough to even know her well enough to get into arguments. Okay, but we have, when I used to go back and forth to, down south every year, we would spend a lot of time, I would go to her house and all that stuff. So it's not like we never spent time together. But, yeah, that's just for an example. That's just for an example, me calling her about 2 weeks and calling her 5-6 times, leaving text messages. She don't text me back. She don't call me back. She don't say nothing. And it's like you got to get to the point where, okay, what if a month or two comes around and she completely forgets that she has not returned none of my phone calls or text messages? And then they turn around and act like you're the one that haven't reached out to them. See, I hate when people do that, and I know that's petty. And this is just an example because it's the most recent thing, okay? Because other stuff has happened, but it's kind of like in the past, and I have to work hard on trying to remember it. Well, I don't want to call past. It's like I kind of don't hold on to it too much, and so I don't want to try to work on digging that up. But this is the most recent thing, and I hate it when people do that. Like you done try several times to try to reach out to them. It could be a friend or it could be somebody you're dating, who knows. But they never call back, and they know goodness well they ignore your phone calls. But 2 months might come around and they might forget how they treated you. So then they'll turn around and say, oh, I haven't talked to you in a while. It's like, that's because you didn't return my phone calls. You forgot, you ignored my calls. It's like, I'm not going to take on your responsibility of not getting back in touch with me. I can't take on your responsibility. And it's time to tell people about themselves. It's time to stop sparing people's feelings. Tell them about themselves. And I'm saying this to me, honestly. I'm not really saying this to you. I'm saying this to me. It's time to tell people about themselves. And if they never want to talk to you again, so be it. Because I'm sick of playing those little games like that. Goodness well. And I say this is just an example because it's the most recent. Because other stuff that happened, it's just like I have to try to remember all the details. And I don't want to, I don't want to try to conjure all that stuff up. But trying to stop playing games with people, And some people do need to apologize. It ain't always about just forgiveness because you can let things go without ever having to talk to that person again. You don't even have to look at them or speak or smile. And I think that's what society gets that wrong. People say forgive. It's like, no, it ain't got nothing to do with unforgiveness. I mean, you can release something because forgiveness means release. It don't have nothing to do with the other person. It don't have nothing to do with talking to them. It don't have nothing to do with trying to give them another chance. It ain't got nothing to do with that. It has absolutely zero to do with anything outside of yourself. Forgiveness is for yourself, and it's to release. It's to release. Ain't got nothing to do with another person. Some people say you got to forgive. Like, no, you got the definition of forgive wrong. That's why I can't mess with religion, because people misunderstand what things mean. People misunderstand what things mean, and they lead you down the wrong path. Forgiveness ain't got nothing to do with dealing with somebody again, and you don't even have to have them in your head. You release whatever it is that you were holding on to. You just release it. Okay, now if that person is still messing with you, still doing things to you, still being nasty, maybe they hold some kind of position of power. Maybe they could be like a relative that's doing nasty things to you, and you still have to deal with them every day. So it's hard to forget them. It's hard to just really let it go, because they are constantly attacking and being nasty, where you have to keep addressing the things that they do. Well, then that's kind of hard to release, because every waking day you have to deal with something else they done. So that's hard to release. That's hard to forgive, which means to release, because you have to keep addressing things that they do. Okay? And that's a whole different ball game right there, because you're not trying to hold on to it. It's just that they won't let you go. They won't let you be free. They don't want you to have peace of mind, so they're going to keep doing things to bother you. And at this point, folks like that, it's no more playing games. They need to know what they've done. They need to know what they've done. It's nothing about unforgiveness. They need to see what they have done that have impacted your life in a negative way, where it took precious time out of your life to address what somebody else did because they didn't want to deal with their own internal issues. So they felt like it would be easier to attack somebody else because they don't want to deal with themselves. And so, sometimes these people might want to come around, and depending on the situation, even I'm sorry might not be good enough. I'll give an example. I was working with this home health company. I'm an occupational therapist. And this lady who's a case manager, she was over, she sent patients to therapists who live in a particular city that I was in, right? In Southern California. I was living in the desert. And for some reason, she did not want to send me any patients at all. Me and her and I never got into a fight. I never met her because it's home health. And with home health, most of the time, we don't really meet each other unless we decide to go out to eat or something, because we leave straight from our houses to the patient's house. We don't go to any offices. We go straight from our house to the patient's house, and that's it. Okay? We don't work in no office with no computers. We use our own computers, the laptops or phones or whatever we use. Okay? And she was purposely not sending me patients. And there was one other employee there that was a physical therapist, was aware of what she was doing. I mean, she didn't want to believe it, because her and this case manager were such good friends that she didn't want to believe this case manager was doing nasty things. But see, this case manager got charisma. So while she's able to be friends with everybody else, she can be nasty to who she wants and have everybody on her side. Okay, see, in this case, she costed me thousands of dollars, and I had to go do other things and work late nights to make money. Okay, so in that case, if she decides to apologize, that won't be enough. She will have to, some people have to, some people owe a debt. Some people owe a debt. Unless, like, say, she said, I apologize, I was in a bad space. Like, no, you ruined somebody's life. I had to work late nights. There was a lot going on that I lost because you were being ugly. So you saying you're sorry is you owe a debt. You're gonna have to come with something else, unless you're sick in the hospital. You're not able to do anything. You're gonna have to come up with something else. At this point, people really, really need to be held responsible. People barely even want to apologize, to be honest with you. So at this point, if a lot of people don't even want to apologize, it's almost like, and some people have their different ways of apologizing, too. Some people have different ways of doing it. Okay. But at this point, like, depending on the severity of what they've done, they need to prove themselves a little bit more. They can't come and just say, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I changed." You're gonna have to prove yourself a little bit more, because what you did was it was along the lines of it was along the lines of some stuff that's happening right now in the world. Okay, it was something that I don't think you can come out of that easily. That's how deep it is, or with some of the things these people do. That's how deep it is that I don't know. you have to hold on a second. That's what I meant when I said you're dead. I said, the word I was looking for is compensated. Some people need to be compensated, and I'm one of them. I'm one of the people that should be compensated, where I just should not accept a regular old apology. Okay? Shouldn't, no, especially like, another example is, my father passed away in 2015, and I know for sure I was told that he left me a will. But see, around 2016, 2017, Spirit told me that they were holding my funds away from me. And it was a nice amount of money, probably in the six figures. And there was other people that's intuitive that was able to see that too. And so it gets to a point, like, when my family do that, my family would never apologize. But even if they did apologize, like, no, you spent over six figures of my money. You can't say you're sorry. You owe money. You steal that from the government, somebody like that. You might pay with your life. And I almost want to get on the mindset that they have. Okay? You just can't. It's like that forgiveness. It's not for them. It's not for them to feel comfortable in their behavior. Like I say, when some people do things that low down, they can't come around even a year later and say they're sorry, because that is some deep-rooted stuff that causes them to behave in such a way, with such vitriol. That is some deep-rooted stuff, and they cannot be trusted. Okay? Especially when they come around and say they're sorry and don't even think about compensating you in the least bit. Okay? Or even if they did something like do something harmful to you, or murder a family member. You lost a child because of them. It's just some things people cannot. But the topic I was talking about was guilt and shame, though. Okay, guilt and shame. And sometimes folks want you to take away their guilt by just forgiving them and wanting to get religious all of a sudden, tell you about forgiveness. Sometimes other people want you to remove their guilt for them. I'm not going to remove your guilt for you, because that's for you to remove. I'm not supposed to be removing your emotional issues. I don't do that. That's for you to work on. Each individual person is supposed to work on that themselves. Nobody else is supposed to do that for anybody. Okay? So when somebody wants you to wipe away their guilt, like, that's not your responsibility. And if they want their guilt gone, and they know that they have to work a little bit harder to earn your trust. They know what they did was so deep that they can't even believe what they're saying when they want to apologize to you. It's so deep that they don't even believe what they're saying when they apologize, because they know how deep that is. Okay? But yeah, just ending this about guilt and shame. At this point, people just need to be called out. And I'm not saying I'm perfect or anybody else is perfect. But what I'm saying is that people need to be called out on their stuff. I was looking at, and I don't watch his show too often, because I don't look at celebrity gossip, because I don't know what's going on in that world. I don't watch TV, and you don't need a TV to know about what's going on with these folks nowadays. I'm just not interested, honestly. But it's this guy named, his name is Armand Wiggins, right? And I just happened to see a title. I guess something happened between Tasha K and one of her mentees, who's another male, has a popular YouTube channel. Okay, she crowned this guy with the Burger King hat, if you know who he is. And Armand Wiggins was talking about how he felt vindicated and stuff, and he was just going on talking about the situation, but how it started with him and Tasha K. I'm not going to get into that because that's not my point. So he started talking about the other guy that she mentored to try to, I guess, according to him, she wanted this guy to compete to make sure that to make sure he has more subscribers, okay, according to him. But he was talking about how this particular male YouTuber who was under Tasha K, who was mentored by Tasha K, was talking trash about him, talking a lot of trash about him. And he didn't even know him, just believing everything Tasha K said, according to him. Because I don't really watch neither one of them. Like I say, I don't really I don't really know what's going on around the world like that when it comes to these people. So, it's celebrities. So I don't watch their channels like that. So I'm just basically repeating what he said. But the main point is that he started taking calls. And somebody asked him, would he ever consider talking to this male YouTuber, who his name, I can say his name because I don't have nothing to say about none of them. His name is Storm Monroe, okay? And Armand Wiggins was like, and I love this type of personality where he unapologetically speaks his truth, and he has a standard. And I really admire that about him. That's why I'm bringing him up. I don't know neither one of them. I don't really watch their channels. But what I like about him is that he has a standard. He's not going to let people just do whatever they want to do and say, okay, time has passed by. Let's forget it. Okay, let's talk and be friends. He is the kind of person like you're going to have to admit what you have done. It's not that he's mad or holding any resentment towards anybody. It's just that he's the kind of person like, no, you don't come around talking in circles and acting like you didn't do nothing and we just friends. You need to see what you have done. Okay, and so he told the person that called in, said, yeah, we can absolutely talk, but he don't need to be talking in no circles. He don't need to be beating around the bush. He need to become clean about what he has done, and then we can talk. All right, and I really admire that statement, because some people feel like when you want people to take responsibility for things they've done, they make it seem like you're the one that have unforgiveness. They make it seem like you're the one that's holding on to hurt and pain. And it ain't got nothing to do with holding on to hurt and pain. You're refusing to let them get away with, you're just refusing to, what can I say? You're refusing to sweep things under the rug like nothing ever happened. That's what's going on. You don't want to sweep nothing under the rug like something under the rug like nothing ever happened. Apparently this guy might have said some pretty nasty things about Armand. Okay, and sometimes when you say very nasty things, it's like you don't sweep it under the rug. I mean, you need to say what you did and apologize or whatever. And see, that I admire, because people can probably think he's wrong for having that kind of standard, but he's not wrong. People need to take accountability for things they've done. I know sometimes we don't always apologize and stuff like that, but depending on what this situation is, sometimes it does require an apology, and the other person need to admit where they came up short. And sometimes the other person don't want to admit where they came up short, and they just want you to just keep dealing with them. And I admire people like him who put up a standard and say no. Okay, I don't know, he ain't perfect either. I don't know him, but I don't think anybody is. But my point is he has a standard, and he's sticking by his standard, okay? And I definitely admire that part, because he is not going to allow anybody, he's not going to take on anybody else's baggage when it comes to something that they have done, and they just want to brush it under the rug and want him to forget. It's like, no, you gotta admit what you have done, and then we can talk. But until you admit what you've done and start trying to play games, we ain't got nothing to talk about, okay? And that's what I like right there. But anyway, that'll be it, and I'll talk to you later.